going? It's on the roof!
It's on the roof! Get there, it's on the roof!
I'm looking, I'm looking!
It's on the roof! It's on the
This
roof!
way!
It's right up there!
Look, that's bigger than me. Look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. Something, oh my God, oh my God.
Nine encounters. 9 witnesses who swear they saw something impossible. A dog thrown through the trees. Footprints that show anatomy no human has. A hunter abandoning his ridge forever. A girl who vanished on a Bigfoot adventure. An audio no biologist can explain. Across forests, podcasts, trail cams, and investigations, one question remains. Which of these is the most disturbing Bigfoot sighting ever recorded? The video is from the YouTube channel Small Town Monsters, known for documenting real eyewitness encounters across North America. Story begins just after midnight on a quiet back road outside Andrews, North Carolina. A former detective and his father were driving home from a racetrack when they crossed a narrow bridge. In the sweep of the headlights, both men saw something hunched low on the right side of the road. Massive shoulders, long arms, and in its hands, something bright fluorescent pink held tight beneath its chin. They didn't speak at first. The son kept driving. A few hundred feet later, he finally asked, "Did you see that?" His father said quietly, "Yeah, turn around."
It's the Glen Choga Lodge. Built in the 1930s from massive American chestnut logs just before the blight wiped the trees out for good. For years it served as a quiet mountain retreat, and today it remains one of the last surviving structures of its kind. A place with history in every beam, and the kind of stillness that makes you pay attention. It's also where we set up our next interview.
Here is where doubt creeps in. It was late. It was drizzling. Headlights can distort size and shape. A crouched figure by a guardrail could easily be a person or an animal. And when they returned minutes later, the shape was gone. No movement, no sound, no trail, just an empty roadside curve. But daylight changed everything. The next morning, they revisited the spot. Deep, wide impressions, far wider than a person's stance, pressed into the ground. The detective had to spread his feet uncomfortably far apart just to match the distance. The fence behind the prints was bent sharply downward. Across the road, an open recycling dumpster held a shattered plastic child's playhouse, the same bright pink color the creature seemed to hold under its chin.
And we got to looking around, and that's a recycling center over there. And at the time, it was just a big open dumpster. And there was a pink child's playhouse inside that dumpster, just broken apart. And what we figured, whatever it was holding a piece of that playhouse. It was real bright pink.
Yeah. The fence was
pushed down up behind it, right up there.
That detail ties the sighting to the physical evidence. Skeptics argue the prints could have been old depressions, the fence could have been damaged earlier, and the toy could simply be trash. Just coincidence stacked on coincidence. But the detective wasn't the only witness that weekend. When he arrived at work Monday, his captain called him in. Before he spoke, the captain asked, "Tell me you didn't see Sasquatch this weekend."
So we have now interviewed 2 separate sets of people who saw a Sasquatch right around the same time of year, all that. They both have very similar descriptions of the creature, so that alone is super unique. But beyond that, there's also the fact that we're in close proximity to the Nantahala River, which, I mean, from, you know, we've already talked to Jeff Carpenter before about the extremely long history of, you know, encounters.
According to him, between 12 and 18 separate callers had reported a large upright creature near the Nantahala River corridor during the same time frame. Same area, same description. Believers point to the consistency, the creature's height, the reddish-brown hair, the posture, the way it crouched low as if shielding something. Skeptics claim headlights, fear, and assumptions bend memory.
Was like that, coming down over the manger. It was, what I seen, it was sticks and leaves and stuff stuck to it.
Yeah, it's nighttime, right? Is it dark? How dark?
Yeah, it's dark. And I was seeing it off the headlight.
Catching this thing? Yeah, in the headlights. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Is that when your lights hit it for the first time? Is that when you see it? Did it?
Yeah.
Was it moving
No.
at that moment, or it's just like kind of hunkered down?
No, it was hunkered down right there.
What complicates the case most is the way the figure disappeared, without a single sound, track, or snapped branch. Nothing moved away from the bridge. The detective says he'll never forget how large that shape was, or how out of place it looked on that road. So here's the question. If this was all just misjudged shadows and trash, how did so many people report the same towering figure on the same night? The video is from YouTube channel Travel Channel. Story begins with the Ames team returning to West Virginia's Teagart Valley on a mission they frame as simple. It's Bigfoot or bust. Before they ever step into the woods, the mystery is anchored to a relic. Trapper's daughter hands over an old shoeshine box filled with his gear, a compass, a watch, harmonicas, a dog collar stamped Gus, and a hidden Pathfinder symbol that matches the one in Trapper's journal.
I'm going to give this box to all of you, and I want you to take up whatever Dad was doing in Tiger Valley and figure it out for me.
There was a watch, a compass, all sorts of random things.
A couple harmonicas.
And we believe this box is tied to our investigation.
We believe this box is tied to the Tiger Valley.
For the team, this isn't just nostalgia. It's presented as a coded message from a dead mentor, hinting that something in this valley took his dog and that he'd uncovered more than he could say. A strange symbol repeated in 2 places. If this were a straight documentary, you'd expect careful timelines, land records, and interviews. Instead, what you get is chaos in the dark. Out in the field, the action builds fast. A deep rumble rolls up from the ground near a farm, strong enough to panic cattle. At a fallen log, they find a heavy cable cinched tight and snapped off, as if something huge yanked free and crashed into the brush.
That thing's embedded in there. Holy. We start following the end of that cable out, and right there it was. Something all frayed out and broke off. What the hell? Whatever snapped off this cable had to have some force on it.
Following sign, they hit a blood trail that leads to a part cow, ribs exposed, meat ripped away, and panicked cattle bunching together like something's still nearby. Later, at another farm, something pounds on barn walls, clambers on a silo roof, and seems to clear a metal gate in a single leap, leaving bent metal and smashed brush, where, they say, the Grafton monster vaulted out.
We missed that the Grafton monster was here in the Tiger Valley the first time we was here. What else have we been missing?
You remember when Trapper's daughter, Laura, give us this box to bring back to the Tiger Valley?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. The night before we came back to Tiger Valley, we met up with Laura.
Hey, guys.
Hey! She gave us an old shoeshine box full of Trapper's old stuff.
I'm going to give this box to all of you, and I want you to take up whatever Dad was doing in Tiger Valley and figure it out.
Skeptics point out the obvious. This is a reality show. Everything happens off screen or in the dark. The sounds, the shaking cameras, the perfectly timed growls around an unarmed team member hiding in a barn. Easy to fake, easy to exaggerate, and never once do we see a clear body, track cast, or lab report. Cows die from predators and disease all the time. A broken cable and bent gate don't prove a monster. Believers counter that the pattern is too specific. Repeated livestock kills, clusters of dog collars from missing pets, an undocumented dog named Gus tied to Trapper's secret work here, strange ground rumbles, tree knocks, and screams recorded in the same valley over multiple visits. If it's all theater, it's an elaborate one, spanning years of episodes, props, and callbacks to a single valley and a single unseen predator.
All right, guys. Let's just go ahead and hit it nose on. We're down 2 team members tonight. Will and Huck's out. The heat got to them.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll be back on the hunt tomorrow.
Yeah, that's sure.
But we have a hot lead, and we got to get on it. Tonight's a little different. We're down 2 team members. We need to take our time, but we need to dig in and find out if there are smoke wolves in this area. Well, guys, listening to Rick today, it sounds like whenever
So when you watch a veteran hunter shaking in fear, a gate twisted, and a dead cow on the ground, do you write it off as pure TV drama? Or could this be the closest proof yet that something else really stalks the Tigard Valley? The video is from YouTube channel DMAX UK, where the team is tracking a lead connected to a possible encounter in the region. The story begins when one of the investigators moves ahead of the group to check a ridge that had produced unusual movement earlier. Within minutes, his voice over the radio changes. He says something heavy is moving close. No vocal, just deliberate steps pushing through dense brush. He tries to reposition himself, but his footing slips. He falls down a steep drop and hits the lower bank hard. Disoriented, he calls out, unsure whether the thing he heard is still nearby or retreating. The team hears the panic and rushes toward him. When they reach the ledge, he's shaken, telling them the slope is nearly vertical. He couldn't climb back up, and whatever was tracking him stopped the moment he hit the ground. He insists the movement wasn't light or scattered. It was a single, heavy body coming directly toward him.
What is it, Russ? I hear something. I didn't hear anything. Okay. I got nothing on thermal. I heard what I thought sounded like branches breaking in the distance. I didn't see anything at all on those thermals. And Zach said that he didn't hear anything. And I suspect it's because I'm on high alert. I'm not gonna let my guard down, because I certainly don't want anybody coming into where we're resting tonight.
Once they pull him out, he explains the sequence clearly. He heard something advancing, stepped backward to avoid it, and the ground gave way. No warning, no extra noise from the supposed creature after the fall, just silence. His reaction makes the team rethink their earlier assumption that the trail had gone cold. Instead, they now believe they might have walked in on something that was already watching them. Meanwhile, another investigator working a mile away describes the same issue. Near impenetrable brush, bedding areas hidden deep inside vegetation, and signs of large animals resting where people rarely step. It raises the question of whether the fall happened by chance or whether he accidentally crossed into an active bedding zone.
Left all his gear, everything's here. Yeah. His light's still here. Where in the are you?
Well, I was taking a pee, I heard something out there.
Skeptics argue the fear amplified ordinary forest movement. Loose rock, a startled animal, or shifting branches can sound heavier when someone is alone and navigating steep terrain. And since no creature was seen, the fall might have been the real cause of the panic, not the sound preceding it. Believers focus on the weight of the steps, the abrupt silence, and the location's difficulty. They point out that the movement was direct, controlled, and close, details that don't match a small animal or a random forest noise. They also mention that the absence of noise after the fall could indicate something intelligent choosing to withdraw.
Holy crap.
Zach. Russ. Hey, man. Are you okay?
I fell down that bank. It's straight down. I need to get out of here.
Okay, hold tight. I'll be right there.
I guess that means that, whatever's up there's gone. Oh my gosh.
So what makes more sense here? An unlucky slip combined with misinterpreted sounds, or a close approach from something watching them just beyond the tree line? The video is from YouTube channel Animal Planet, following an investigator heading to meet Charles, a lifelong Oklahoma woodsman whose routine turkey hunt changed the moment he claims he crossed paths with something far larger.
It scared the heck out of him, and he's never gone back after that bird. He told me he works at a small gift shop right on the edge of town. I'm gonna go there, pick him up, and we're gonna travel to the location together.
A lot of Bigfoot stuff here.
Why do you think that is? Because Renee suggested something the other day that the Bigfoot stuff is here and that makes people hoax. I think it's the exact opposite. I think Bigfoots are here and therefore they've become part of the culture, and then you get stores like this that have Bigfoot stuff.
The story begins with Charles admitting he chased the same Tom for 4 years, returning to the same ridge every morning and evening. His turkey blind still sits where he abandoned it. He says he was watching the ravine below when a commotion broke out and a towering figure rose from the brush. He ran past his own decoys and never returned until now. Before revisiting the site, the investigator meets him at a store filled with Bigfoot-themed items. Charles insists the merchandise isn't what creates sightings. The sightings came first, and the culture followed. Locals see these creatures often enough, he says, that Bigfoot has simply become part of town identity.
Why do you think that is? Because Renee suggested something the other day that the Bigfoot stuff is here and that makes people hoax. I think it's the exact opposite. I think Bigfoots are here and therefore they've become part of the culture, and then you get stores like this that have Bigfoot stuff.
And there's been a lot of sightings around here too, because they're here.
So today we're gonna go check out the location where we actually saw this thing?
Right.
All right, what do we expect to see out there?
Hopefully we'll see that big Tom.
Oh yeah, and what if we do? Did you bring your gun?
Yes, I do have my gun with me, but I've decided I'd rather shoot it with a video camera than with a gun. He's a majestic bird, and that'd be the wrong thing to do.
I love your way of thinking.
On the ridge, Charles positions the investigator using a walkie-talkie to demonstrate the height of the figure he saw. The estimate places the creature at around 7 feet, leaning forward, then rising to look directly at him. The posture matches the moment Charles describes.
About right there?
Okay, very good. That's a little over 7 feet, probably right at 7 or 7'2" or something.
Bent over, as if searching for food. Walnuts and edible plants cover the ground. Charles believes the creature was foraging. He says the encounter ended his pursuit of the turkey entirely.
You said it was leaning down like this and came up and kind of looked at you like that?
That was perfect. That's exactly what it did.
Yeah, if this thing was bending over, doing stuff on the ground, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it was foraging for grubs, pulling up some edible plants, maybe even getting some water, or there's walnuts on the ground. There's a lot of food going on here. All right, man, I'm gonna come back up.
In his words, this is his ridge. He can have it. And while that sounds dramatic, his refusal to step foot here for years suggests genuine fear. The investigator notes that after decades of hunting, Charles carries a gun, but now prefers a camera. His respect shifted from chasing proof to avoiding confrontation.
I think it might have been foraging for some food or something.
Well, there's plenty down there.
Oh,
that's
clearly.
for sure.
I imagine that during the springtime as well.
Yeah.
It just must be a cornucopia of choices of things to eat.
I pretty much figure it's got a plethora of food.
Ooh. Clearly there's enough food in this area to sustain a population of large mammals like Sasquatches.
From there, the team broadens the investigation. Other locals report nearby activity, tree breaks, footsteps, and distinct odors that witnesses associate with Sasquatches. One researcher even claims multiple creatures approached his campsite, describing heavy movement and a strong smell.
How'd you make out?
I was at a cemetery, an old homestead site near Daryl and Marilee's up there. Actually had squatches around. They came up, there was at least 2 of them. One ran through the trees and brush, stomped like 80 yards away. Probably about an hour and a half after that, I got a couple strong whiffs of the squatch smell. Definitely squatch smell.
Details he insists match previous encounters in the same region. Skeptics argue the region is full of wildlife capable of alarming noises, and a startled deer or hog could easily create the ruckus Charles heard. The height estimate, they say, depends entirely on memory and positioning, which can distort over time. Believers counter that the posture, the foraging behavior, and the sudden silent retreat don't match typical wildlife. They point to the continuity of reports along the river system, linking Charles's Ridge to other sighting hotspots downstream.
I know no Bigfooters have ever tried to go in there because it's just total swampy zone. But we could get near the edge on one of the sides where there's just farms and grazing areas, get right up next to it, and then maybe draw one out.
Well, it sounds like we got a perfect spot, and I got the perfect technique. When I was on my solo investigation, I was driving down the road trying to get to the edge of a swamp. I see this guy working on a cherry picker.
So was Charles driven off that ridge by an unusually large animal he misjudged in a moment of panic, or did he genuinely come face to face with something bipedal and massive that slipped away before he could react? This case is from YouTube channel Squatch Mafia. Something strange happened behind a small rural property, and the uploader insists it began with one impossible detail. His dog was lifted and thrown over a tree. He never saw what did it, only the aftermath. And that claim alone is what made this clip explode online. The recording starts with him walking toward the tree line. Within seconds, he's whispering that something is moving above him. Branches crack overhead. Another snaps harder, deep enough to feel in the chest.
Oh, no, okay, come on. Come on, come on.
He says he sees something in the canopy, but the camera doesn't catch it. You hear everything. You see nothing. That tension becomes the backbone of the entire video. As he moves closer, more branches break. He points out fresh splinters and says each would take him minutes to cut through, yet something snapped them instantly. The sounds get louder and more violent, like two massive animals slamming wood together. He compares it to gorillas fighting in the trees. And honestly, if I heard that above me, I'd be backing up too.
I hope you can hear this. It sounds like gorillas fighting in the tree. They're breaking limbs bigger around than me.
Then the clip hits its peak, a full tree trunk. He estimates 8 to 12 inches thick, snaps in half, not rotted, not fallen, snapped, as if by something far stronger than a bear. His voice cracks, and that human panic is exactly what makes the footage so gripping. He backs away, saying whatever's up there is angry, and he doesn't want to find out what it looks like.
This is the second time I've come over here. And the first time when I got up under them trying to figure out what it was, they started breaking limbs off and throwing them at me. And I still cannot figure out what it is. Look, they're ruining this freaking place.
But here's where doubt enters. You never see a creature, never see the dog, just audio, broken branches, and a rattled man. Skeptics immediately argue storm damage, a diseased tree, or someone staged off-camera breaks for dramatic effect. And honestly, the footage is chaotic enough that you can't fully rule that out. Believers counter with their own logic. The breaks happen too high for a person. The force sounds immense. The timing, branches falling directly above him as he approaches, feels intentional. And the original claim about the dog being thrown over a tree, that's still the detail people can't explain or ignore.
Look, that's bigger than me. Look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. What in Jesus' name is doing this? Oh my God, he just took half the tree down. Something, oh my God, oh my God. Oh, it's gotta be I don't even think a bear would have a chance in Hades and they're doing this.
Near the end, he suddenly freezes and says something just hit the ground. He believes it's coming toward him, and he bolts before anything else happens. If I heard something that could tear down healthy trees rushing my way, I'd run too. Some say hoax. Others swear it's the closest thing to raw Bigfoot aggression ever caught on camera. So what do you think? Natural collapse? Staged chaos? Or something strong enough to tear trees apart while the camera was rolling? The video is from YouTube channel Selkirk Mountain Sasquatch, where Bill Bisson sets out to examine a series of strange winter tracks reported near Sullivan Lake. It starts with simple curiosity, just footprints in melting snow, but quickly shifts into something harder to dismiss. The story begins when Bill meets Anton and Lisa, who found the tracks while walking their dogs. They immediately knew they weren't looking at snowshoes or standard boot prints. The spacing was too wide, the length was too long, and the angle of the impressions didn't match anyone casually hiking a steep incline. Bill's goal was basic: check for toe marks, heel pressure, and overall size before the last of the snowmelt erased everything.
The big tracks. And I got pictures of the wolf further up. When you go past through that bridge. Okay. Grouse down below it.
But we did have a snowmobiler track right there. So we're using a little bit of a different colored light in here.
As they climb, Bill switches between normal light and a green light to bring out shadow details. The first prints are softened by melt, but higher up they find something that stops everyone. A deep, clean impression showing a pushed down front section, almost like a bare foot flexed into the snow. The impossible detail comes next. A faint arch structure paired with what looks like an outward heel bulge. Bill mentions how certain historic Bigfoot casts show a mid-foot flexion that humans don't have. The print they're looking at seems to mimic that exact trait. Skeptics would argue melt patterns, old snowshoe holes, or even animal disturbances can distort prints. Bill openly acknowledges that possibility. But believers focus on the stride length, the consistent uphill motion, and the lack of slide marks. A human climbing ice would shorten their steps and slip. These tracks don't slip at all. They dig in. Even the spacing, longer than the average adult, suggests something tall, moving with absolute stability.
So you can definitely see something from about here to here. Maybe a toe print there. Hard to tell. No. As you can see, we're on a hell of a hillside. This is interesting right here, this one I'm looking at, guys.
Need the light to... Oh, yes. Exactly so.
It could be tree moss, it could be hair, but it seems like hair. It seems like it's a fine hair the way it's sticking everything. You know how your dog, when you're walking through the house, and your dog's got hair everywhere?
There's no grandfather moss hanging around here anywhere.
But this would be fun because
The hair-like fibers stuck to a log become another point of tension. Bill collects them carefully, saying they could be moss or actual hair. He plans to examine them under a medical microscope, half joking that he can look up a gnat's ass with that thing. The team laughs, but the moment underscores something real. They're not claiming Bigfoot, only that they've found something they can't easily explain. Anton and Lisa admit they weren't even trying to find evidence. They just noticed the tracks because the terrain was so difficult that no normal hiker would bother climbing it, especially not off-season, in deep snow with no reason to be there.
I mean, I'm kind of seeing a toe print right there, but I'm not seeing any other true definitions of prints. But right here, look at this. This is really iced up right here. So you got the arching right here.
Roger.
Okay, you got this little outside where the outside of the heel, kind of like a outside bunion. You got this rolled toe. I would say we're looking at something that is a print.
So the mystery remains suspended between possibility and doubt. Melted prints, confusing shapes, unusual stride length, potential hair samples. Maybe it's a misinterpretation, or maybe it's something rare walking through those mountains. After seeing their findings, where do you lean? Strange natural coincidence, or something genuinely out there? The video is from YouTube channel Cabin in the Woods.
What if I told you that every argument skeptics use to try to deny Bigfoot's existence has already been proven wrong by science, by evidence, and by a whole lot of facts they refuse to face?
And it opens with a bold claim. What if every argument skeptics use against Bigfoot has quietly been dismantled already, and almost nobody noticed? The host goes point by point, and the first question is the one everyone throws out. Where's the body? He answers with a strange little time capsule from the 1960s. The Minnesota Iceman. A frozen, man-like figure toured across North America, face and forearm visibly damaged, encased in ice. Two zoologists, Ivan T. Sanderson and Bernard Heuvelmans, examined it for days and publicly called it a real unknown primate. That's the impossible detail here. Respected scientists staking their reputations on a carnival exhibit. Later, the body on display is replaced with a latex dummy, and suddenly the story becomes obvious hoax. Skeptics say it was always fake. Believers ask, if it was just rubber, why did the experts double down?
Two highly respected scientists, Ivan T. Sanderson and Dr. Bernard Heuvelmans, personally examined it and documented striking anatomical features that pointed to a real unknown primate. Heuvelmans even published a scientific paper identifying it as Homo pongoides, a potential evolutionary offshoot of early hominins. He wrote, quote, "This is no hoax. I have studied it in great detail for 3 full days. The creature is real." Sanderson concurred, citing the broken forearm and visible damage to the eye as injuries that would be extremely difficult to fake in any replica.
From there, the video widens out. North America has billions of wild acres. We almost never stumble on bear skeletons, and even known primates like chimpanzees have left only a handful of fossils. Add another wrinkle. Many intelligent animals show proto-burial behavior. Elephants, wolves, even certain birds. The host suggests that if Sasquatch has similar instincts and buries its dead, the odds of a random hiker tripping over a clean skeleton drop close to 0. Skeptics counter that an entire breeding population should still leave something undeniable behind. Next, he tackles hunters, trail cams, and video. Most hunters stick close to roads and blinds. Reported Sasquatch sightings are miles beyond that, and even if one walked into a rifle's sights, how many people would actually pull the trigger on something tall, upright, and eerily human-faced? The host even hints at whispered stories from rangers and military personnel told to keep quiet. Skeptics point out there's still no officially verified specimen, no trophy on a wall, no documented confiscation.
If you want to disprove a species, you need more than assumptions. You need actual research and critical thinking. Just before we move on to the next item on the list, I wanted to take a quick moment to make something clear. I'm not attacking Bigfoot skeptics. If you're an open-minded, honest person who simply hasn't been convinced yet that these beings exist, then I have no problem with you. In fact, it's for people like you that I made this video and others like it to try to present the facts and evidence about Sasquatch.
Then comes the Patterson-Gimlin film. Decades of frame-by-frame analysis, restored versions showing muscle movement under the fur, odd limb proportions, and that long, rolling gait. Special effects artists say 1967 costume tech couldn't replicate it cleanly. Critics lean on conflicting hoax confessions and missing suits. Believers lean on anthropologists like Jeff Meldrum and motion experts who say the biomechanics look real. Reddit threads, Bigfoot forums, and academic papers all circle the same 60 seconds of shaky footage. And still no consensus. Finally, the host throws down a bigger list. Footprint casts with dermal ridges and mid-tarsal breaks. Hair samples that don't match known species. Weird howls no biologist can pin down. And indigenous stories that predate YouTube by centuries. Skeptics call it pattern-seeking and bad data. Believers call it a cumulative case.
Physical evidence. More than we have for many accepted species in early stages of discovery. Take footprints. Experts like Dr. Jeff Meldrum have analyzed casts showing dermal ridges, mid-tarsal breaks, and pressure release indicators impossible to fake. Tracks like the 1969 Bossberg cripple footprint display detailed pathology consistent with a living being, not a hoaxer. Hair samples collected from alleged sighting locations have been analyzed and determined to be from an unknown primate, not matching any known species. In one study, some samples couldn't be classified as any known animal.
So after frozen bodies, strange tracks, contested films, and unexplained screams in the dark, are we clinging to doubt because the evidence is too weak? Or because the idea of something this big, this close, and still undiscovered is a little too strong. From Fox 13 Seattle.
Here in the Northwest, the legend of Bigfoot dates back hundreds of years. Stories of Sasquatch, a giant creature that roamed the forest, were passed from generation to generation and continue to this day, despite no concrete proof that the creature actually exists. Some not only believe in Bigfoot, they say they have encountered it. So along with photojournalist Walker Anderson, I went deep into the woods to hear their stories and check it out for ourselves.
A news crew heads into Jim Creek Recreation Area in the Cascade Foothills, a 5,000-acre patch of protected military land where locals quietly say something huge moves between the trees. Out here, the legend of Bigfoot isn't just old stories. Generations of people have reported a big black figure, darker than the surrounding night, with a monkey-like face and a sour, musky smell hanging in the air. Jim Creek has Sasquatch crossing signs and a reputation for strange encounters, but very few humans actually hike into the deeper, restricted parts of the forest.
A big black figure. It's different color than the normal night surrounding me.
In the Northwest,
it scared the crap out of me.
The legend dates back generations.
And he said this thing basically looked at him.
Talk to people who spend a lot of time in these woods.
He said it had kind of a monkey face.
And you'll hear the stories.
And then he said it had a weird smell.
Bigfoot.
And he
an
kind of
icon,
walked towards it.
a mystery, a mascot.
Well, I'm definitely open to Bigfoot.
The crew brings two guides. John Ray, a Bigfoot field researcher who says he and his own kids have seen a massive creature here and even tracked it from a trailer across an open field and back into the trees. Alongside him is David Grant, a scientist and anthropologist studying a strange print in the mud. He points out how the thumb seems to have pressed down and then pulled out, leaving a cavity and a visible nail-like shape. To him, the way the fingers curl suggests an actual hand, not a distorted animal track or a boot impression.
For if there's gonna be something, that this would be the place.
We're squatching deep into the hinterlands, Jim Creek Wilderness area. This is where very few humans tread, although it has been said that Bigfoot does roam. The signs don't lie. Sasquatch is here.
Skeptics argue everything here could still be misread. A bear print in soft mud, a human hand dragged across the ground, or a prank set up for cameras. Believers, however, see the thumb angle, the finger spread, the remote military land, and decades of consistent reports as too aligned to dismiss. Even the scientist jokes that Bigfoot is a great way to meet good crazy people. But he admits that, as a researcher, a mystery this persistent is hard to ignore. And when the sun drops and the crew heads out for a night walk through the woods, the decades of sightings and unexplained prints feel suddenly more possible.
Through this open field and out into the forest again.
Just a massive creature, it seems like. It appears that that thumb that made it moved up through the mud or substrate, and then when it was taken out, it left that cavity, and you can see the thumb print. So the thumbnail is right there. All of the evidence seems to be lining up. It's more in line with these fingers, and it's wrapping or curling around something like that. And so a hand like that would make a print like this.
If you came across a handprint like this deep inside restricted forest land, would you brush it off as a hoax, or would you get out of there fast? From the YouTube channel Salish Sasquatch, this case focuses on Bumping Lake in Washington, a quiet recreation spot layered with years of strange activity. Researcher Tristan Yolton started in 2015 after his father heard two whoops behind their home. Tristan and his mother left out a peanut butter jar, crackers, and a small recorder. By the next day, the jar had finger marks scooped all the way to the bottom. The wrapper was carefully opened and the recorder looked untouched. On the audio, something arrives about an hour after they leave, eats, then comes right up to the recorder, fumbling with it and letting out low, unsettling sounds.
Recorder out on my mom's truck, a Tascam, and at 2 in the morning we had these, what I call the chorus audio, this multiple individuals singing like an opera, like a big chorus. Like there's I think a possible male that starts it off, and then you hear these higher voices, these higher singing voices chime in, like possibly females or juveniles chiming in, and that went on for a half hour straight, constant.
That led Tristan into the Bumping Lake area, Rock Camp, Nelson Ridge, and a place they call California Camp. He believes something travels the ridge at night, slipping close to campfires to watch. On July 18, 2020, a recorder on his mum's truck captured what he calls the chorus. Several voices rising and falling together like a rough off-world choir. A deep starter voice, then higher ones chiming in, possibly females or juveniles, going almost non-stop for around half an hour. Other researchers stack on more layers. Two men pushing into an old-growth cedar stand hear sharp rock impacts close by, and later find their audio picked up soft clacks and 3 distant heavy knocks they never noticed in the moment.
Looking for prints, and we just kind of got way out there.
And this is an old-growth stand, correct?
Yeah, nice old-growth cedar stand. So eventually we just kind of walk over, try to find some sticks and poke around, because we had nothing but a Pepsi can and a beer can. And that was not going to do any good. We never found it. We never found the rocks, and we never heard it leave. We never heard any brush break. So whatever was there was still there when we went out, because the ground was full of downfall, full of loud twigs.
Another witness, sitting near camp, sees a figure at twilight walk 2 steps from a tent edge into the trees. About 6 feet tall, side profile, like a classic Bigfoot, but appearing to the naked eye like a moving, black-hot thermal silhouette.
I came back and I was sitting here and I saw something walk from John Ray's camp into the woods. 2 steps, 1 Mississippi, it was gone. And the only way I can explain it is that it looked like what you see through a thermal when it's set in black hot.
Veteran expedition members recall nights where multiple sets of glowing eyes watched from behind trees and activity shut down instantly the moment someone switched on infrared assist. Their working theory: whatever's out there may be able to see IR from trail cams and night vision and avoids it on purpose. Add in prints, odd structures, family stories of monkeys taking salmon and twisting tools, and Bumping Lake stops feeling like a weekend getaway and more like a long-running boundary line.
And I was standing in its way, and the creature looks at me for about 2 seconds, and then it turns, and then it walks down the logging road that I was standing on. So later the next day, I went back and measured how high the creature was. The eyes were at the same level as a branch that was 9.5 feet off the ground. So that was really cool. So I had a sighting. This creature was black. I couldn't see very many details, but it's a black creature that was blacker than the black around it.
So what do you think? Campfire legends stacked together, or a real cluster of encounters circling the same hidden neighbors? The YouTube channel Mountain Beast Mysteries revisited one of the most debated clips ever recorded in the Redwoods. A creature filmed at extremely close range by a TV production crew in 1995. The footage is messy, chaotic, low light, and shot on a cheap handheld tape camera. But the reaction captured on that tape is why this case refuses to die.
But it's taken me a long time to even bring myself to making videos on the subject of Sasquatch for a few reasons. One, I definitely feel like the field of Bigfoot is kind of stagnant, and I've just been kind of wanting to dive into new ideas and theories as to what could be going on.
The clip begins with their motorhome parked at night. They're partying, filming each other, not hunting anything. Suddenly, their headlights reveal a dark, upright figure standing directly in front of the RV. No hiding in the bushes, no distance to mask details. It just stands there, fully exposed, then walks across the road on 2 legs and disappears into the tree line, 9 feet away. Not blurry, not distant, right in their headlights. Here's the problem. The people behind the camera were part of a TV crew.
It's crazy. Like, the whole landscape of the world of Bigfoot is so much different, but I am doing my best to step up to the plate and try and get some more videos and content to you guys. It is sad. Obviously, my dad was a big part of this channel, and it even becoming a thing. And I mean, now I guess he probably knows the answers to all these mysteries, which is cool.
That creates the exact bait and switch this channel thrives on. Believers say the reactions sound raw, panicked, confused, just like people who weren't expecting anything. Skeptics argue the opposite. A TV crew already filming an adventure project just happens to capture Bigfoot walking by. Too convenient. Even expert opinions split. Researcher Jeff Meldrum personally visited the site and considered the footage worth investigating.
Talk on the phone, we would just talk about Bigfoot for like hours. You know, I'd always thought, oh, maybe one day we could go to Henry Lake, that lake on Vancouver Island where I shot that first Wildman film. I thought maybe we could go out there one day and film it, and it'd be a really cool thing. But like, that'll never happen now. And a lot of people have passed away in the realm of Sasquatch recently. Jeff Meldrum and
Renee DeHinden dismissed it outright, strictly because it was filmed by professionals. That conflict alone is why the clip survived nearly 3 decades. One detail works strangely in its favor. Hoaxers almost always keep their subject far away to hide seams, masks, or zipper lines. But this figure is right in the headlights, close enough that viewers have argued endlessly about shoulder width, posture, and even whether the creature shows visible male anatomy, something Meldrum hinted at privately, though nothing definitive appears in the clip. If it's a suit, the hoaxer walked directly up to a running motorhome at night, 9 feet from the lens, while half-drunk strangers filmed uncontrollably. That's a bold stunt for 1995. Even today, Mountain Beast Mysteries points out the same impossibility. If this was staged, why film it on a cheap handheld instead of their professional TV camera? Why shoot in a way that exposes the figure instead of hiding it? Why risk walking that close? The more you apply basic logic, the stranger the clip becomes. The last twist? Someone claimed to have seen an uncut version of the original tape, one with even more chaos, more screaming, and no sign of planning. That version was never released due to heavy profanity, but if real, it suggests what happened wasn't rehearsed at all. So what did a group of partying TV crew members really catch in their headlights that night? A reckless hoax staged at point-blank range, or the closest accidental Bigfoot footage ever recorded? If you were holding that camera, would you believe what you saw? Or assume you had filmed a costumed stranger 9 feet from your motorhome? In a video from the YouTube channel Exploring with Brad, a solo night hike in a Canadian winter forest slowly turns into something much darker than a simple spooky exploration. Brad starts off treating it like one more creepy forest adventure. Snow lighting up the trails, abandoned ruins, signs of past homeless camps, weird junk left behind. He jokes, talks gear issues, and keeps it mostly light. Until the first thing breaks the pattern. A strange, distant scream in the woods. Not a clean animal call, not quite human either. Just a sharp, someone's in trouble, noise drifting through the trees.
Yeah, that is just, there's something going on. You know what I mean? There's definitely something going on. Okay. Well, whoever that is, I feel bad. Like, I'm hearing some screams in the woods. Not good. Could even be coming from the street. Because, I mean, we did see the road up there. You know what I mean? Like, it might not be the woods, but just the fact that somebody's getting hurt or they're pretending to be hurt, I don't know what the going on out there.
He tries to rationalize it. Maybe it's coming from the road. Maybe someone fooling around. But it keeps happening. What he calls a strange whistle. Faint, far, and wrong. And this isn't an empty forest. He finds fresh axe marks hacked deep into trees, wires, and barbed snare-like setups stretched low like traps. and a rusted fence line and coiled wire that look less like random trash and more like someone's territory defense. Brad becomes convinced there's a hermit or unstable person out there with an axe, and he might already be inside their zone. Then, the footsteps start. Running. Heavy. Close. Something tears through the trees near him. He doesn't see a figure, but he hears it sprinting past, feels it enough that he dives off the trail, hides, and waits. More hacked trees, more movement. He's caught between two possibilities: a dangerous human who has booby-trapped the woods, or something else using those same paths. When a deep growl rips through the night, loud enough that Brad instantly thinks bear, and then remembers there supposedly aren't bears in that area. He brakes, bolts for the car, and gets out.
Oh, freak, what was that? Oh no. Oh no. What was that? Oh no. Something up there.
Later, he heads to the so-called Bigfoot Teepee Camp, a woven structure in a known Sasquatch hotspot where college students and dog walkers have reported attacks and sightings. The forest here is full of bent trees, odd scratches, and that same metallic lead smell he can't place. While he sleeps inside the teepee, he hears crawling behind the tent, something screaming again in the dark, and the unnerving sense of something circling just out of sight. When he finally steps out to check, whatever was there is gone. Only old tracks, empty snow, silence.
There's something back there. Oh man. Oh, my heart. Oh, my heart. Oh, there's something back there. Oh, fudge. What was that? Oh, what was that? Oh boy. Come on, catch your breath. I can't run anymore. I lose the shoe. What the? What was that? Oh man. Oh man.
So what was really stalking him out there? An armed stranger with traps? A misidentified animal in a no-bear zone? Or something tall and unseen that owns those woods after dark? For decades, Bigfoot has existed in a strange tug-of-war between belief and doubt. Some point to encounters, tracks, and unexplained sounds deep in the forest. Others dismiss the whole subject as misidentification, myth-making, or outright trickery. The tension between both sides has shaped the creature's entire legacy. Yet, when the arguments are stripped down and studied closely, the skepticism surrounding Bigfoot isn't as airtight as it first seems. Critics often begin with the lack of physical remains: no bones, no fossils, no preserved bodies. But in reality, fossilization is rare, especially in the damp, acidic, heavily wooded environments where sightings tend to occur. Even known animals such as gorillas, cougars, and large ungulates leave behind almost no fossil record within their current habitats. In the wilderness, carcasses vanish fast. Scavengers scatter remains. Moisture dissolves bone. Within weeks, nature wipes away nearly all traces, and the biological samples that do surface, unidentified hairs, partial DNA sequences, tissue fibers, continue to generate debate, with some showing characteristics not fully matching any documented species. Then there is the argument that no Bigfoot has ever been captured. But throughout history, many large species were considered impossible until they suddenly weren't. The okapi was once a hunter's tale. The coelacanth was believed extinct for 65 million years until a fisherman pulled one from the deep. Today, more than 300 million acres of untouched North American wilderness remain, massive, inaccessible, and largely unmonitored. Within those spaces, a highly cautious, highly intelligent species could avoid people for generations. Skeptics also reference hoaxes, and yes, those exist. But the existence of forgeries doesn't erase the thousands of reports made by hunters, biologists, park rangers, law enforcement officers, and trained outdoorsmen. People capable of recognizing wildlife and distinguishing it from imagination. Tracks showing dermal ridges, mid-tarsal breaks, and weight distribution patterns beyond simple fakery have been cast and studied for decades. The Sierra sounds continue to puzzle audio experts with vocal ranges that don't fit known animals. The lack of clear photographs is another sticking point, but encounters almost always happen in low light, dense brush, or in moments of shock. Even professionals struggle to capture known wildlife under those conditions. The Patterson-Gimlin footage, scrutinized for over half a century, still resists any definitive debunking. Sightings vary, sizes differ, colors shift, behaviors change. But variation is natural in wildlife. The core description stays the same: a towering, hair-covered biped, unlike any known species. In the end, skepticism persists. So does belief. But across cultures, continents, and centuries, the same figure appears again and again. Coincidence? Or a pattern hinting at something real? On October 13th, 2024, Mike was driving through the Pennsylvania State Forest with no intention of searching for anything unusual. But a sudden movement between the trees caught his eye, clear enough to make him stop the car. Instinct kicked in. He pulled out his phone and began recording from a safe distance. Whatever was there stayed partly concealed, shifting just beyond the tree line. Mike never got close enough to identify it, and the footage offers no easy answers. Something was moving back there. Whether hiding, watching, or simply passing through, he still isn't sure. Skeptics often repeat the same line: "It's blurry, it's unclear, it could be anything." And honestly, they're not wrong. Most modern footage is a mess of shaky hands, zoomed pixels, and last-second panic. But that's exactly why it's worth looking back to a time when hoaxes were far harder to pull off. Take the 1996 Bigfoot Memorial Day footage, filmed on May 26 near Chapaka Lake, Washington. Lori Perte captured it on a high 8mm camcorder during a simple Memorial Day fishing trip. No drones, no special effects, no CGI. The clip shows a dark, upright figure sprinting across an open field before disappearing into the trees. Supporters praise the fluid motion and body proportions. Skeptics call it a man in a suit. Personally, I'm stuck in the middle, leaning toward no. My first reaction is always the same: that's probably a guy in camo. But then, on the second viewing, questions surface. Would a normal hiker sprint that fast on uneven terrain? Why risk twisting an ankle miles from help? And why does the figure appear covered in a consistent, uniform shade from head to toe, with a body mass that seems to stretch taller mid-stride? Some viewers even label it the second best Bigfoot footage after Patterson-Gimlin. I disagree. The Freeman film has far more weight and detail. This one sits in my intriguing but inconclusive category. Not proof, but not easily dismissed either. So what do you think? A genuine anomaly? Or just another hiker caught at the wrong moment? Before we go any deeper, we have to talk about one of the most debated clips in Bigfoot history: the Harley Hoffman footage. Many viewers still call it one of the few recordings that actually feels real. The bristling hair on the creature's neck, the weight in its movements, the stride, all details that are hard to fake. Even if you doubt it, Hoffman's own words hold weight.
Insatiably curious. Probably 95% of all the sightings that happen more or less accidentally have more to do with them being curious about us than the other way around. He wanted us to find him. There's no other way we would have. No other way. It's absolutely real. I'm telling you, apply the same scientific principles that they espouse to that film and tell me it isn't real. Don't forget, science is an attitude. It's not machines. Science is an attitude of questioning. Not doubting, but questioning.
Nearly 18 years later, his footage remains a battleground of opinions. So, what do you think? Authentic encounter or clever hoax? On October 30th, 2013, just before midnight, brothers Joel and Jonathan Brown captured a piece of thermal footage that continues to split the Bigfoot community right down the middle. The image appears to show the head, shoulders, and upper torso of a large figure standing motionless on their property, far bigger and broader than a typical human silhouette. Some see undeniable anatomy, others see nothing more than a heat anomaly or misinterpreted background. The clip is brief, ambiguous, and impossible to ignore. What do you see? Because later in this video, we'll compare it to another remarkable thermal capture. In the quiet bushlands of Australia, Jeff Nelson has spent years living alongside something he can't quite explain. He's not a man easily swayed by stories or superstition, yet across decades, he's had more encounters with the Yowie than most people would dare imagine. Sitting with Dean Harrison, this interview comes from a YouTube channel called Yowie Hunters. Jeff recounted these moments not with bravado, but with the weary certainty of someone who has seen too much to deny. He claims to have witnessed the Yowie 17 times, not fleeting glimpses or campfire tales, but close, tangible encounters, some from just a few meters away, others observed from the safety of his property or the road. He's rarely alone during these events. His wife, his son, neighbors, and friends have all been there to see what he's seen. To Jeff, that's what makes it real. It's not just one man's story.
To date, visual encounters with the Yowie, I've had 17. Most of those were with my wife or my son, neighbours, friends. So there's always been, most of the time a witness right there with me. And some of them from a distance, sometimes from here to the dam up the back, others within 20 feet.
His first sighting came before his home was even built. While camping on the property, he noticed what looked like another tree at the edge of the driveway. Only when he shone his torch did it turn, a massive figure, standing upright, meeting his eyes. It wasn't a trick of the light. Whatever it was aware of him, and that brief eye contact was enough to send him rushing back inside.
Yeah, the very first time before the house was built, we were just camping, and I went outside and I noticed at the time the tree is long gone now, but there was a large tree at the end of the driveway, and I noticed something large right next to it, and I thought, I don't remember seeing another tree there. So I went back inside and got the torch, and when I illuminated it with the torch...
Years later, while speaking to a client outside his machinery shed at dusk, Jeff experienced another moment that burned itself into memory. A heavy grunt broke the evening stillness. Then came a deep snort, followed by unmistakable chest thumping. Whatever was hidden in the scrub wasn't a kangaroo. It was bipedal, deliberate, territorial. Both men watched as a towering figure moved behind the lantana bushes before vanishing into the trees. The man fled in his vehicle. Immediately, Jeff wasn't far behind.
One of the closest would have been with one of my customers. We were discussing a business outside the machinery shed. We were just talking, it was getting on towards dusk, and possibly we were talking a little loud, because I think these things are very territorial. And all of a sudden we heard this loud.
What disturbs Jeff most isn't just the sightings, but the evidence left behind. Trees torn apart, branches 6 inches thick ripped clean off claw marks raked deep into the bark. Around the property, the air sometimes fills with a stench, a burnt electric smell that lingers for days. Once you smell it, he says, you never forget it. He's also found stones hurled with force at his shed, heavy round thunder eggs that couldn't have been thrown by any human from such distance.
I've seen a couple of, that's why we think there's definitely 2 or 3 different individuals on the property that frequent it. Whether they live in a cave up the back or whatever, I don't know, because I'm not game enough to go up there. I flatly refuse to go up to the top end of the boundary.
Jeff describes the creatures as immense. 8 feet tall, broad-shouldered, walking with a powerful, unhurried stride. Their chests thrust forward, heads set low on the shoulders with almost no visible neck. Some are covered in dark, matted hair, others in shades of gray or reddish-brown. Their faces vary, leathery and pale on some, darker and shiny on others, but always unsettlingly intelligent. The eyes, he recalls, are wide-set and unblinking, the gaze heavy and aware.
Very well built, huge shoulders. I've read a lot of reports of people seeing them stooped. I've yet to see one stooped. They've usually got the chest thrust out, and very robust, covered in a shaggy, matted type hair, and we've seen variations in the colour, anywhere from a reddy brown.
His neighbours once doubted him, until they saw it too. One man, now deceased, witnessed a hairy figure stride out from a fence line while checking his stock. Another family across the road experienced similar encounters. Even Jeff's son has seen them multiple times, often pointing one out before Jeff could react.
The gentleman who lived next door is deceased now, but I was telling him about it and he didn't believe me. And a few days later he apologised to me. And he said, "About your hairy creature." And he said, "I was up checking my stock." He says, "And one just walked straight over the boundary fence." And I said, "Well, thanks very much for warning me that he was coming my way." And it was, and it convinced him. There's another gentleman who used to own the property straight across the street.
To this day, Jeff refuses to explore certain areas of his property. Up near the boundary line lies thick scrub and the sense of something watching. He believes there are at least 2 or 3 Yowies that frequent the area, perhaps even living in caves nearby. What they are, he can't say. And not human. Something ancient, he insists. Something that doesn't belong to our time. Would you believe him if he tells you his stories? Across all cases, one detail repeats. Something too strong, too fast, or too unnatural to dismiss. Maybe it's the snow prints, the tree snaps, the missing girl, or the scream that shouldn't exist. Believers call it proof. Skeptics call it coincidence. But after watching these encounters side by side, which moment disturbed you the most and why?